I'm extremely happy to be here today. Thank you, Mathrubhumi, for providing a wonderful platform for us to express and exchange our ideas and to agree and disagree gracefully. Today, we'll be talking about Diaspora Diaries. We have two great personalities, Pramudith Rupasinghe and Saraid De Silva. You'll be hearing more about their stories and their journey throughout our conversations. Diaspora in Greek means to scatter. People have been leaving their homeland and traveling for different reasons, for generations and for years. They displaced or traveled, moved by choice or by force. And along with this move, this scattering, they took their culture, their language, their memories, all those along with them. And this became a solid foundation for diasporic literature. So let me start with Saraid De Silva is a Sri Lankan Pakeha writer and creative based in Auckland, New Zealand. Saraid, do you think the concept of home is different for people in the diaspora? How do you define home for yourself?
Oh wow, that's such a good mic. Kia ora, thanks Jane. It's so nice to be here. Yeah, home is such an interesting idea. It's interesting for me to answer this question, like being here in India, which is where my grandmother was Singaporean, but she was Tamil, and her family were from Pondicherry, which obviously isn't in Kerala, but I had never been to India before. Like, I got here in January, so I've been traveling around and never been here before. So I feel like answering this question here feels different to answering it in Aotearoa, New Zealand, which is where I grew up, but isn't where I'm from in any way. I feel like home is way more based around people for me than it is based around a place. Like, I could build a home anywhere if I was with like people I wanted to be around. But I wonder if that perspective is because I'm not indigenous to the place I grew up in. So I'm used to not feeling like I have any claim to a place. I'm used to a place being somewhere I was like privileged to grow up in, and somewhere that my family was privileged to move to because of the relationship between tangata whenua, which are indigenous New Zealanders, and immigrants. Not because leaving Sri Lanka was a privilege. Yeah. So, short answer. Too long don't read. I feel like home is people for me rather than any kind of place.
Thank you, Saraid. I can so very well relate to that. I'm a Canadian citizen, originally from Kerala, and now been living in America, Austin, Texas, for years. So, for a longer period of time, home was, I tried to put a physical location where like home was where parents were, they were here in Kerala. But then like I'm like twice displaced. I lived in Canada, now I'm living in US. So when I think about home, some days I think about Canada, the memories I carry with me. Lot of times it's India, but like Saraid said, it's more of a feeling. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very personal and very tough question to any diasporic writer. So when it comes to Pramudith, he's a humanitarian diplomat. You have lived in more than 50 countries, different continents. How do you define home for yourself?
Thank you so much, first of all, having me here. Uh, Actually, I left my country as a teenager. first for studies, then for work. And since then, I've been moving the place, the physical place, from one place to the other till today. And most the time, I got short missions, which means that maximum 6 months in one place. And whenever I come back to Sri Lanka, I found that I was not the same person each time I left. So for me, I mean, on the one hand, as you rightly, shed the light, the people, they matter the most. But again, for me, it's a culmination of many things. The place, you have the sense of place. It has cultural aspects, it has spiritual aspects, of course, the people, and ecological aspects. But then again, today, the question you ask, I question myself every single day because I'm on the move. And and finally, after Ukraine crisis, my family was displaced. So this all sort of movements, displacements have pushed me to think that home is something very kind of a liquid thing, where you belong to a bigger place, where you have to really find your place, your home, or what you call home. That is difficult.
Thank you very much, Pramudith. That's quite a strong statement. It is definitely a feeling. There is always some loss and gain in these kind of journeys. I always tell people, when you cross borders, when you cross seas, you gain something, but at the same time, you lose something too. Switching gears to some another topic, we only have an hour, so. Um, right, you have worked as a novelist, a podcaster, and a television writer. How does your storytelling approach differ across these mediums and platforms?
I love like the phrase "worked as a novelist" when there's so little money in writing novels for me. It's more like begging to write novels rather than feels like work or something. Storytelling approach over different mediums. So like the podcast that I made a podcast in Aotearoa called Conversations with My Immigrant Parents. Me and one of my really good friends who's a filmmaker, we would travel around the country, sitting with migrant and refugee families and basically recording them speaking to one another. So we would spend like 2 days with each family in the end because we made little documentaries about them. And it was more about encouraging people to speak to one another, which is something like we often don't really do in our families, right? Like, when do we kind of have the time to sit? Well, that's what we found when we recorded, was that like people wanted to know things about their mothers and fathers and grandparents, and they just kind of hadn't taken the time to do it, or the other party didn't know that their kid wanted to understand. It was really interesting. So I did that for 3 years, and the TV writing that I've done is like mostly soap opera, you know, like a cliffhanger on every ad break type of thing, and it was set in a hospital. So two ad breaks in 1.5 hour session. Somebody's having a heart attack. Somebody's finding out about their husband cheating. Like, that's standard for one episode. So my novel's not quite like that. But I think that like storytelling approach across all three mediums is, I'm like very interested in place. Like, I'm interested in the room the thing is happening in, and the time and the town and the country. And I wonder if that's like I don't know, if that's like a diasporic mindset or something, but I'm always interested in, or because I used to work in theatre, like, I'm always interested in the space that the situation is happening in, and I feel like that's consistent across genre. And then for how storytelling differs from writing soap opera to writing novels, I think I take more pride in the novel.
Is your approach to writing novel very different from others too? Did you the process for writing that novel, was it very different?
To
Yeah, the process and the approach you took to write the novel, was it difficult to? Was there some learning and unlearning?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you just, have to sit down and do it till it's done. Like, I think I had Amma took 4 years to write, from like woe to go, and I don't think I'd worked on one project for that long. Yeah.
Thank you. So when it comes to Pramudith, like I said, he's a humanitarian diplomat. He has worked in UN and Red Cross in various projects in so many different countries, around more than 50 countries, I guess. And I'm sure that'll be a rich experience. So could you please share your experience, at least, some profound experience, some memorable experiences working on those projects?
Well, in the field, of course, there are a lot of things that as humanitarians we encounter and witness that are beyond the normal human experience. But I don't really, want to overwhelm the audience with these negative things that we encounter on daily basis. But at the same time, I think that one of the things that most of us don't really, you know, uh, highlight as humanitarians. I got to notice in Liberia when I was working with the Ebola mission. So there were a lot of like experts from everywhere, you name, from every country. There were them with us, and then when I was talking to one focus group, and one old man stood up and told, if there are 4 monkeys dead in the forest, 3 monkeys dead in the forest, the fourth one will take you with him or with it. And that was the time we were talking about that, okay, so the Ebola was new to West Africa. But this is communal storytelling. And it was a big eye opener for us. And it's just an example. And it really sent me a very strong message that the community engagement is vital. And communities are the ones who shape our responses. And the stories that the communities do have, the folklore, can still be used for our modern responses. I don't know whether we do really consider them. And I think at the end of the thread, what is really important is that the storytelling, the ancient ones, do really have, very important elements that can be used for today's world. There's nothing, I think, that can be left, without regard. So I think it's a very rare experience that I got, while talking to people. And since that moment, I was like, I think one of the reasons why I started writing about the folklore, especially African ones, was that because that really gave me a very strong message. You really have to bring them back to the stage.
Thank you. So, how long was like each mission? Like, did it vary in time? Like, you were there in each place 6 months, year?
Well, in Africa, I was 7 years, but in different countries.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, in East Asia, I worked couple of times, including Rohingya response and then flood responses and Nepal earthquake response, etc. And starting from, the tsunami response 2004, that was one of the largest disasters known to humankind. And then recently, the most recently, I was in Ukraine as the regional advisor for East Europe, and after that, I stopped working.
Yeah. Did you ever feel that, like, in between the missions, like, after seeing all this human suffering and pain, like, I'm done, or you always felt I want to do more?
Well, I think we are not superhuman. We really have to know that. I often take breaks, but later I pick the pen. That helped me to vent a lot.
Okay, thank you. So, Saraid, you briefly mentioned about your podcast series, which is, if you're interested, you can check it out on Spotify and on YouTube, I guess. It's called Conversations with My Immigrant Parents. I'm sure you might have experienced something similar, but in a different way. Recording like each episodes, like all the conversations happening from people from different parts of the world, conversations through generations. Can you share some experience from those podcast series?
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I am aware that my New Zealand accent is very strong, so I'm going to try speak a little slower. um, the podcast, yeah, experiences from recording. It made me think about how no matter... It made me think about how, like, immigrant kids are sort of yearning for their parents' home. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like you have this idea of what the place your family, if you're first gen like me, first generation New Zealander, so my mum was born in Sri Lanka, you have this idea of what the country's like before you go there. And obviously lots of the families we recorded with did grow up in the country that their parents are from. Lots of them had visited, had lived there in part. Most of them spoke 3-4 languages. No matter how connected to their culture they seemed from the outside, everyone was longing for this idea of home. And I think I felt like so much more disconnected than so many of my friends. But it's just it's so elusive. Like, it's so much an idea in your head of this place where you could have a different kind of life, or if your family had stayed, you could have a different kind of life. You would be different people. I don't know. What my main takeaway from it was that there's just this real longing for a feeling of safety or stability, or kind of something that you're reaching, and it's not even the experience that the previous generation had. You don't ever fully get that. You don't understand it, so you have this made up idea of it, and then when you sit down and you all talk about it, it's like 5 different realities in the room. But yeah, that was something that I just kept noticing.
Thank you very much. That's quite powerful. And coming to Pramudith, your book, Bayan, it's a novel. So that is set in Ukraine and it has won Golden Astor Prize. Can you talk a little bit about that? What led you to writing that novel?
I think that's one of the biggest mistakes in my life, and something that I suffer a great deal of guilt for that as well. I mean, let me explain a little bit about it. So, I'm an observer. I usually sit at the balcony or else in a cafe, and I observe people. I think, early 2013. I was in this place called Akhtirka in Sumy region, northeast of Ukraine. I saw an old man. Uh, you know, his language, I mean, the way he talked was incohesive, but I understood what he said in Russian. He was mixing Ukrainian and Russian when he was talking. And suddenly, I got an idea. I mean, what is this generation? And that's where the research started. They belong, I mean, Ukraine has been a passage for wars ever since, since world wars and even before that, and even today. So this generation, those who have born in early 40s, they have lived through several conflicts, and then, you know, at their 40s, they face this shift, political and social shift, fall of Soviet Union. So this, I mean, I thought that it was very interesting to explore this, this generation facing this social change and their struggle. And then, when when I was in Ukraine, even, during that time, 2013, I felt that Sesame City under my feet. There was something brewing. And then the following year, there were, riots or, demonstrations, firing, etc. And and when I pinned down that story of, I wanted to talk about this old generation, but I picked a very unique symbol, bayan, the accordion, the Soviet, the old Russian accordion. That was very hard. That's very hard to play. But the buttons are very rough, and it's very heavy. I thought it's like Soviet Union. And then this guy trying to play his kind of melodies using that tough instrument. I mean, for me, it was like his life struggle. Uh, and and later on, I mean, like I published that book in 2018, and back then, for some reason, I don't know whether it was fully conscious. I named certain, I mean, I changed the names of certain villages and I wrote them in Russian. And today they are under Russian occupation, unfortunately. So back then it was partially historical fiction and partially speculative fiction. Unfortunately, today is a historical fiction. And then my wife comes from, I mean, she has roots from Ukraine. And here I am in front of my family, wordless, with that award sitting at my desk. I don't know whether it was, I mean, penning down that book, I consider today is one of my biggest mistakes.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, though. Thank you very much. I think on the same note, let me talk about Saraid's novel, Amma. This was published in 2024. And that talks about family, displacement, identity of like multi-generational dialogues. How much of it has your own family stories or your own like oral histories from like your family side tucked into novel Amma? By the way, she has her novel Amma with her. Can you show it to our audience? And she'll also be reading paragraph from that. Thank you so much. It's a lovely cover.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I
Yeah,
love the
please share your
clapping.
experience first. Yeah.
Of my family's experience in the book. Well, it was my first book, so I was quite scared. It's still my first book. I think I started with everything that I knew, and then made up all the rest. Right. So I like started with a family who has the same whakapapa, which is like journey and origin, as my family, and then just made up the things that happened to them. Wrote some people I wish had been alive. Made. I sort of wanted to make. I don't. This is probably going to sound weird to say, but I sort of wanted to make the women in the book quite scary, because the women who raised me are quite scary. Well, they were quite scary to me when I was little, but in a kind of powerful, cool way. So the book is quite a lot about revenge, and that is definitely the scariness is definitely part of my upbringing, but it's not like my life. It's just, I mean, like books, it's half real, half fake is not the right word, but it's all like filtered through experience and craft and yeah. But the family in this book definitely had like the same physical-ish journey as my family, because I just felt like I couldn't start with something I didn't know. Maybe my next book I'll make it all up, but yeah, the first one I had to be able to stand on it.
Can you read a paragraph from the book?
A paragraph?
Or your favorite lines?
Oh no. Can I have a look while Pramudith is talking, and then I'll thank you.
I think talking about books, we'll continue our conversation. Pramudith has a new book coming out soon, this year, I guess, right? So I have to read the title. I don't want to make a mistake. So it has a very catchy title, She Who Snatched the Moon. Can you tell us a little bit about the book without revealing too much?
Of course, I think I cannot give a spoiler at the moment. So, the book is set in Bangladesh, and it's about a girl, as the title says. But I try to explore, few themes. One of them is our education system, that system that we inherited by the British, and it has evolved in many of our countries to kind of a useless system today. I mean, kind of obsolete system, especially in Sri Lanka. So the story is set in the brothel called Kandapara, one of the largest brothels villages. And I try to say that that is better than the system that we have. So that's all I can give you at the moment. But I think it will be a very different novel, and I mean it's very different than all the other novels I've written. And this is the first novel set in South Asia. I mean set across 3 countries: Sri Lanka, India, and Bangladesh. And it took me 10 years to write that. Yeah. Yeah. And all of these kind of these working breaks, like I took 4 breaks collective around 4 years. I didn't work just because of that. I think at least at the end of this year it will come out.
Did you say end of the year?
End of the year, yeah.
Okay, so it'll be released in India as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Saraid, are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Audience, are you ready?
I'm aware that as I was like combing through the book, that if anyone took a photo, it would look like I was on a panel just reading my own book. Okay, anyway. So I'm reading a bit from the middle of the book. The chapter is called Josephina, 1968, Colombo. The first time Josephina saw the banyan, she stopped still, unsure if she was dreaming. It was an illustration from a storybook come to life. Roots streamed from thick boughs, searching for their next home. The leaves were plentiful but small, frivolous in contrast to the trunk, decorating the body as well as the crown. She knows that banyans are bridges to another world, but the first time she sat under hers, she felt closer to only herself. She wondered if this banyan was not a gate to other places, but to other parts of her life, years she just hadn't lived yet. Josephina is 27, single, and a teacher at the Catholic Girls' College in Mount Lavinia. Her colleagues often invite her to have tea with them in the staff room. Once a week, or less if she can manage, she will trail after fellow English teacher Shalina or Vice Principal Rashan to the open-air courtyard they refer to as the staff room. Her workmates are cheerful and curious. They ask questions about her life and when she might get married. Josephina is stiff in comparison. She's always felt her looks are the only reason anyone can bear her personality. When she returns from washing her hands, her spot has been taken. It's as though someone walked into her house uninvited. A man is quietly sitting just so, staring into the distance. His expression is serene, as though his mind is 1,000 miles from his body. This man's hair is blue, black, and curly, so coiled and glossy it is cheerful. His face is all sharp points and angles. He wears a white shirt and pants that make his skin gleam. He is dressed for a funeral. Josephina blots her palms on her orange sari and marches in front of him, scowling. He gives her a smile so effervescent that she stumbles. "You're sitting in my place," she says. She forces her chin into the air above his head. "Your place?" he says. His teeth are very small, spaced slightly apart and painfully white. He looks like an imp. But his eyes do not chew her up like most men's do. He has a gaze so steady it unnerves her. Clearly, he has decided to be trouble. "It is your place, of course, I am sorry," he tells her. The banyan's roots fall like a curtain between them. She smells lavender soap, clean and soothing. He turns and walks into the dark hallway of the museum. Josephina tries to take her place again, but she sits left of her original spot. She cannot bear to share the grass he bent. That would be too intimate. The birds are louder. The colours around her are saturated. They lend her their joy.
Thank you very much. That's Amma for you from Saraid. Is it available in India?
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope it's available here. I don't know. It might be the UK copy, which is small and kind of rainbow coloured. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah, we can
Hasn't
find
been
out.
published in India, but it might be available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to another topic. Pramudith, the South Asian diasporic literature is always framed around trauma or struggle or pain. Do you agree? What are your thoughts?
I think that we live, here we live in a world, this is a world of contrast. We have everything here. And especially when it comes to my country, I would say we have, faced a lot of repetitive traumas. And we are struggling, a bunch of people, but we are also very resilient. I think that we have our own struggles, and we do write about struggles and trauma, etc. But we also do write about the other things. That's also, we need to recognize that we need to, see that. I think this is not the first time I'm talking about this. You know, we have so many situations that are, very difficult. We have lived through difficult times, and our voices, like especially the diaspora, those are our voices outside our countries. But at the same time, I don't agree completely that it's only framed, around trauma and struggle, because especially I think that it evolves. There were times that people vented a lot, and we are still venting. We have enough things to vent, but still, we do have a lot of other things to talk about. We are from very, we are from cultures which are very, I would say the tropical colors, and we have a lot of things. We are from vibrant cultures. Pardon, my French. So, and I think it's important to see both sides. It's not just merely, framed around trauma and struggle.
I I also think that framing doesn't come from writers as much as it comes from like publishers. I feel like publishers in the West are hungry in quite a sinister way for stories of trauma from everywhere else. Like it's not writers always wanting to write about this. It's people in power deciding what sells, right? Like, yeah.
Exactly. I think I 100% agree with you. And especially what is marketable today is what the people who hold the power want, and, we cannot blame them either.
I do.
Yeah, because for me, we buy that.
Right, yeah, I see
we
what
buy that. We should stop buying that, I think. Then there won't be those things to sell. For me, personally, I would say that I don't buy it.
Right. I also think, sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
also think that like, if a story has so many different things, including traumatic events, to single out the worst parts of the book or the most devastating parts is to like not fully understand the thing. Like somebody can give you this whole range of experiences, and if you're only identifying the traumatic ones, you didn't really read the story. Yeah.
I think just,
Sure,
we do
sure.
cry, we do smile,
Yeah,
and we do laugh.
yeah, love it. Yeah.
That's so true. Diasporic literature has so much currency in it. It is documenting civilization, so we need all kind of stories, and there's still a lot more stories to come from diaspora. Saraid, just different topic, and you live in New Zealand. Do you think New Zealand literature and media have done enough to reflect the diversity of the people who live there?
No.
What more can be done?
Yeah, nah, definitely not. I don't. To me, yeah, it's an interesting time to answer that question because we have a far right government in New Zealand right now, a very conservative, I think quite evil government in New Zealand. And also that the country is, things are quite different now because of our government. I also think that New Zealand post the shootings, there was a white supremacist terrorist attack in New Zealand in 2020, where 51 worshippers in a mosque were murdered. I think the place is very different before and after that because of what that illuminated about everything. So no, there's not enough stories that really show what living there is like for all different kinds of people. There's also a real lack of arts funding in Aotearoa, so that's why I was making a joke before about sort of working as a novelist being a bit of an oxymoron. But we have so many good writers, we have so many good poets, specifically, and as long as people keep writing because they love it, I think it will get better. But it would be really nice to have some more money or to have someone from the government act like they cared. Or some funding would be great. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's such a sad way to answer that question, but there's a real strong legacy of writers there, and it would be good for them to be supported more.
Thank you. Did you want to add something to that, or?
I mean, in Europe, I think comparatively there are a lot of spaces for writers, but still, that's relevant to entire world. I think we are the poorest bunch of people in the industrial art.
Dancers don't have much money.
Oh yeah, there's at least one layer.
Thank you. I think staying on the topic, Saraid briefly mentioned about the political shift. The political right-wing shift is happening across the world. And we are talking about currents of changes here. How would society adapt to these changes? How would this shift affect people in diaspora? Pramudith.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Brussels most of the time. I see the changes. I mean, that's the place where most changes are brewing in Europe anyway. But Brussels is a very diverse city. There are a lot of immigrants living there, and there are a lot of people. It's a very, very diverse place, and I see that all of these dynamics. I mean, these right movements, populists, etc. We all are trying to fight it, but I feel that even today, look at what's happening in the US, and I don't know Germany. What's next in Germany, and Belgium has right wing, not really far right, but right wing government, and the policies they formulate are not favorable for people, and especially for immigrants and the diaspora. So I think today's world, it's a place, it's a difficult place to live. But good thing is, on the other hand, I would like to shed the light on this currents of change. With all of that, we are also heading to a world, a century that is the century of Asia, and the power is shifting. I would like to, you know, end that with a positive note, because there are a lot of negative things happening around us, but at least we have to look at where we are from and the countries, you know, in the global south, and see what we can do to sustain the changes that, the currents that are coming towards us, the positive ones. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much, Pramudith. I think it's we are running out of time. I think it's time for questions from audience.
When you get the call to the origin, to your back home, the first question is food a pull? You know, the local food, that's one question. The second is, when you're there, after a while, do you get a feel that you are a foreigner there? Basically two questions.
Can I answer? Yeah, always feel like a foreigner in Sri Lanka, and I definitely. I mean, I am a foreigner because I didn't grow up there, and here as well, obviously, and in Singapore, where my grand's from. Food is so important. Like, because I just feel like food was the one thing I knew about the place that my family was from, because I only ever ate like Sri Lankan and South Indian food growing up. So going to Sri Lanka for the first time, I was like, this is the food that I had in my house that none of my friends knew what it was, and I'm eating it everywhere I go. So yeah, I feel like food is just the most, like, it's such a clear, direct relationship to culture for me.
For me, the same, because the spices, those aromas, everything, and the dried fish curries, and all of these are part of us. And I think that every time I come back to my country, I also feel the same thing, that like a foreigner, because of this whole reverse cultural shock is there every time when I return. But I think food is one of my coping mechanisms. Just grab something from my hometown, I'm okay.
I think I have to add to that. I think people who moved, the immigrants, their big way of preserving their homeland and culture was recreating all the food you ate back home, and it still continues. We all do that. Still, I definitely crave for food when I come home. That is a big part of it. Do I feel like a foreigner? There is a belonging issue. Like, I feel like I don't truly belong anywhere when I'm there in US. I'm not fully immersed. When I'm here, people see me. There's like, even though I grew up here, there's slight, different approach people have. But I think it is a blessing. It's good to be like that. You feel like a global citizen. Thank you.
In between, you mentioned that writers are sort of puppets in the hands of publishers. Writers are playing puppetry in the hands of publishers.
Are writers puppets in the hands of publishers?
Publishers. You mean, you said that most often trauma pays. I'm just reminded of Monica Lewinsky when she passed through the unspeakable experience with Clinton. The publishers wanted her to write on her unspeakable trauma. So it pays well. So do you think that writers are mere puppets in the hands of publishers? Or writers are the investment of publishers?
I mean, I think you have a choice. you know, if you don't want to write about it, you don't have to write about it, and you take the consequences, right, that come with that. You don't have to change your. My UK publishers wanted to put all the Sinhalese words in my book. They wanted to italicize them, and I said no. And like anything, you just say no if you don't want to do it, and have to be prepared for what comes. Do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing is that writing integrity. That's very important. You know, you are integrated to what you write, and you don't really compromise it. And the other thing is you don't write to please. I mean, I don't at all.
I have a question to Pramudith. You mentioned that historical fiction, the Ukraine case, so far it was speculative fiction. Now it is historical fiction. So what is the change which is triggered from speculative to historical fiction?
It's Russian aggression against Ukraine.
Okay.
That's it, simple.
Simple.
That's whole bulldozering the whole entire place with the people.
So can I ask one question for Saraid? Do you have any other influential writer from American literature? Yeah, do you have any other influential writers?
From America?
Yeah, from America.
Writers I love from
Yeah.
America, like who are writing now or writing historically?
Writing now.
Writing now. Gosh, I can only think of writers who are dead. Yeah, there's definitely. Oh, I really love Brian Washington. I think I've read everything he's written. Ocean Vuong, obviously. When you say an American writer, I think James Baldwin immediately, and Toni Morrison. Raven Leilani's really good. Have you read Luster? That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of amazing American writers, obviously. I can't think of any white American writers I love. Some food for thought.
Okay, thank you. Do you have?
Of course, Toni Morrison, yes. And I have one of these recent, ones, Vivi Ganeshananthan.
Oh my God, I love that last night. Yeah, she's amazing.
She has Sri Lankan roots, and she has an amazing book out.
Thank you so much. I am an English literature student, so English language and literature student. So thank you so much for introducing a lot of others. So thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful questions.
My question is to Mr. Pramudith. Good morning. It's just that you spoke about guilt when you were writing that book. So when you're drawing from your own experience, when you're writing it, how do you manage the political and the personal when you write? As a diasporic writer.
How do you manage?
The political and the personal.
Well, certain things when you write unapologetically, they come with consequences. And, there are two types of consequences. First one is that you have to deal with them within yourself. And then the others come from the outside, which you can call political or societal or whatever. I think both of these, my belief is that when you pick a pen to write for advocacy, to advocate on something, I think it's like a drug. You write it and you leave it there. That's it. And whatever comes, you deal with it. And I don't advise this to. This is not an advice, okay? So this is how I write.